Hello everyone, it's the storyteller here. I've prepared something slow, eerie, and sleep-friendly for you tonight. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments. Are you drifting off already, or still wide awake? Ari, the heat, death of the sun. Reality was having a Monday with a capital M. Never mind that it was Thursday, or that Monday always began with a capitalized M, or that both Mondays and Thursdays only existed on Earth. That was all beside the point. Ron liked that about Earth, though, the calendars. Really, humans had something special going on with them. They were great with organizational skills, and he appreciated that, given his role as manager of accounts payable. He was just one cog in the existence machine, but lately Ron felt he might be the only one to really give a hoot about the overall health of the industry. The atmosphere of the Division of Material Validity office was drab, sure, but he found his job of keeping existence running to be interesting. There were an infinite amount of vendors that manufactured the various components of reality, and he enjoyed his role of ensuring that those accounts all got paid for their hard work. Ron's day started off fine enough. His boss, Mike, prattled through the morning meeting with his usual ennui before giving him a checklist of urgent tasks. Ron spent his pre-lunch hours ticking off boxes. Pay the universe's monthly time invoice to keep months a thing. Contact maintenance overdue space-time fabric repair on collapsing wormholes in Sector 12. B. Review discrepancy in inertia. Report on galactic planetary rotation. Forward any Earth RFPs titled, "Oh God, please save us," or similar to upper management. He got through the first two in record time, considering he paid time ahead of schedule, but the Monday-ish nature of the Thursday kicked into high gear as he scrolled through an inbox full of dismally titled RFPs. He'd always thought the DMV overpaid reality's freelancers, so he was perplexed as to why there seemed to be so many slackers recently. Humans weren't the only ones having issues. The fluxers on Zemulus 237 were freaking out about Zemulus 237 suddenly rotating backwards, but given their sheer amount of messages, humans were definitely making the biggest fuss. He'd been scrolling for the past 15 minutes, and he still hadn't reached the end of this morning's RFPs to the Savior Department alone. Ron glanced across the aisle at Florence's cubicle and saw that she wore a similarly exasperated expression as she looked through them all. It would seem that endless earthen pleas to the heavens were clogging up everyone's inboxes. Ron, frankly, was at his wit's end. He dialed Mike's office phone extension. Why is Earth spewing out so many salvation proposals all of the sudden? Sun's getting too big and hot. They're having a rough go of things. Ron blinked and scrubbed at his forehead. That's odd. I paid Fusion's invoice. I know. They got upper-level orders to churn out more energy, though. Kicked it up yesterday. He sank back into his office chair and rolled his eyes to the ceiling. And upper management didn't communicate that with the rest of us because... Mike snorted. It was just a little tweak to Fusion's workload, not a big issue in the overall grand scheme of things. Ron sighed. Okay, thanks. Forwarding now. Yep. He set the phone back on the receiver and began forwarding messages up the chain of command, but paused at one rather offensive title. He read the message, feeling a bit nosy as he did so. From Alice Kincaid at Earth.Universe.2. All at DMV.Universe.Subject. RFP. We're dying down here, asshole. Hey, God. CNN just announced we have about 6 months before we're cooked. The sun's getting hotter by the day. I can't go outside anymore. I thought we had like 1 billion-ish years left. At least, That's what the Science Museum exhibit said when I went as a kid. Scared the hell out of me. Always has. But 1 billion years is a damn long time. 6 months is absolutely not. I would love it if you could make the sun go back to normal. I haven't done everything I wanted to do yet. Please, it's too hot. It hurts. My skin is... Please. More sincerely than I've ever been about anything. Ever. Alice Kincaid. Scowling, Ron called Deity. The line rang for a few long moments, but he was pleasantly surprised when the CEO answered. Hello? Hi, Dee. How's it going? Hey, man. Same old. What's up? I just had a question about Salvation RFPS. Ron could hear Deity typing something as he responded blandly, Shoot. Are you guys doing anything about them? I've forwarded several to you and the board, but they just keep coming. I was going to mark them as spam and wanted to check if you're receiving them without me forwarding. Yeah, spam them. Got it. Ron considered whether it was professional to ask further questions, but his curiosity outweighed his propriety. Are you going to respond to them? Take any of Earth's projects on, I mean? Deity laughed in an offhand way. Nah, I'm phasing out the planet. Humans are too destructive. Tarsonis's Jebulons have their act together a lot better, so the board voted to sell off Earth and invest over there instead. It's a stabler market. He felt a hot stab of dismay at the news and swallowed thickly. Understandable, but can I say? He gave a little laugh. I mean, I know it's way above my pay grade, but... But? Ron chose his words carefully as he said, Humans have been our top client for a few 100,000 years. They've had some centuries of poor performance every now and then, sure, but we've always kept an overall mutually beneficial relationship. It's unfortunate we're ending it on a bad note. Deity clicked his tongue. Speak more freely, Ron. I don't mind hearing your opinion. Ron huffed a chuckle. Don't write them off our books. I like what they put out. Would be a shame to not be able to get their stuff anymore. What sort of stuff? Ron thought for a moment. Well, I enjoy all the love stories. They've got some great food, too. I tried a sandwich once. Phenomenal. And I owe them a debt for coming up with calendars. Deity deliberated silently before replying. Jebulons just created a far superior timekeeping system, and it didn't take them almost 300,000 years to do it. Switch to using theirs. The market's moving on, Ron. Progress with it. I appreciate your input, though. Tell you what, I'll bring up your notes to the board at the next meeting. We may be able to work something out. Ron's shoulders relaxed. Thanks, Dee. Appreciate it. Yep. Have a good one. The line went dead. Ron turned his attention back to Alice's message, his cursor hovering over the Mark as Spam button. He decided to archive it instead. Ron brooded the entire commute home and concluded that he found the DMV's culture and overall philanthropic approach to be increasingly lackluster. Phasing out Earth was a bad move, plain and simple. He didn't understand the decision, even after hearing Deity's explanation. Jebulons had exited the primitive stage of existence far quicker than humans had. True, but their demeanor was overzealous. The DMV's mailroom was constantly overwhelmed with fanatic offerings, and their adoration always felt just a tad too desperate to be authentic. Humans showed their appreciation for reality in subtler ways. They were intentional with it, more honest. A message of gratitude at receiving a tight embrace from a missed loved one. A whispered, I owe you when swimming through crystal water. A salute when a sore knot is worked out of a long, aching muscle. Deity was a great guy, a fantastic CEO, but he had a distinct flair for the dramatic that often left Ron dealing with a nightmare at the office. For instance, around 6,000 years ago, Deity hedged a bet that chemistry wouldn't be able to synthesize enough water for Q3 on their current budget, so he'd ordered Ron to increase their payment. Mike had warned the CEO that doing so would generate far more water than could be tolerated by planets with life forms. But Deity had simply responded that those life forms were underperforming. He'd ordered that a handful of profitable creatures be retained for improved reproduction, and the task fell to Ron to proceed with the higher payment. To this day, Ron felt terrible about flooding every planet across 4 galaxies. He settled into his nightly routine, but he couldn't get Alice's message out of his mind. He pulled up the archived message as he ate his supper. After a stiff drink, he forwarded the correspondence to his personal account, then forwarded it to Alice again with an attached reply. From Ron at personal.universe.2, Alice Kincaid at earth.universe.subject. FW. FW. RFP. We're dying down here, asshole. Hello, Alice. Strictly speaking, it goes against protocol for me to send this message, and you are the first life form to receive such a communication from me, so my apologies for any disruption to your evening. Admittedly, I'm unsure how this message might be received by a human. The purpose of this correspondence is to extend my sincere condolences for your current situation and assure you that your concerns regarding your imminent demise will be thoroughly discussed at the next meeting of our board. Please note, however, that this does not guarantee immediate action. We appreciate your patience during this time. All the best, Ron. Manager, Accounts Payable, Division of Material Validity. Ron sipped on his second drink, feeling a bit more at ease with the situation. His satisfaction dissipated when she returned a response in seconds. From Alice Kincaid at Earth.universe.2, Ron at personal.universe. Subject: indistinct shriek of terror. I apologize, but I need Japanese text to perform the conversion as requested. If you'd like me to demonstrate this capability, please provide Japanese text that includes kanji characters, and I'll convert it according to the guidelines. Ron set down his glass and frowned as he replied. From Ron at personal.universe.2, Alice Kincaid at Earth.universe. Subject: indistinct shriek of terror. Hello, Alice. Your quick response is appreciated, but I am confused as to your meaning. Best, Ron. Alice's reply was instantaneous. From Alice Kincaid at Earth.universe.2, Ron at personal.universe. Subject: indistinct shriek of terror. Get out of my head. Get out. Get out. Are you reading a bloody email? God, it hurts. It hurts. Ron winced, pulled out his phone, and found Alice's alternate contact in the DMV database. He dialed the number for a video call. The image of a hyperventilating woman curled into the fetal position on a dirty floor appeared on the screen. She was covered in patches of charred skin, and her hair was matted with blood in some places. Ah. Hello. This is Ron. Please forgive me for calling you at this hour, and for the pain you experienced receiving my initial messages. I wasn't aware my previous form of communication would be painful for a human. She let out a shriek upon seeing him appear in what looked to be her kitchen. Her hands tore at her hair, as she mumbled incoherently. "Are you all right? It wasn't my intention to startle you." Alice shot to her feet and tugged a large chopping knife from its holder, brandishing it in his face. What are you?" Ron's brow furrowed. He'd always assumed humans would recognize a DMV agent, considering all the mail they sent. "As I said in my earlier message, I'm the... What the hell? Manager of accounts payable at the DMV," he continued as she panted a string of vile curses. "I read your RFP meant for the Savior Department, and I felt just awful about what's happening to your son. I thought I'd give you an update personally, maybe alleviate your fears a bit." Her subsequent screech was nearly unintelligible, but Ron deduced through the wailed expletives that she was confused about the nature of the DMV. "Please, miss, calm yourself. I'm not technically in the room with you." Alice's eyes bulged, but she stilled, and the knife clattered against the tile floor. "The division is quite hard to explain to a life form on your plane of existence, but the short answer is that we manage and regulate that plane." She jabbed a finger in his direction. "So you're the one responsible for making the sun about to explode?" Ron's teeth tugged at his bottom lip. "It's a bit more complicated than that." He lost the battle against his better judgment and gave the terrified woman a simplified explanation of Deity's decision. When he finished, she sank to the floor in a heap and put her filthy head in her hands. "It will be all right. The board will..." Alice breathed a raw laugh. Ron looked at her with concern as the sound grew in broken intensity. "Miss..." "Angels," she choked out between gasping fits of laughter. "And God and reality itself are all just a bunch of corporate goons, and I'm nothing more than an underwhelming employee, and..." Her laughter morphed into weeping. "Oh, that is cruel." She was an underwhelming client, technically, but Ron didn't correct her. "Is there anything more I can do to help you at the moment?" He cringed at the utter devastation on the woman's face as she turned to nod at him. She was silent for a long moment, staring blankly at the heat-yellowed paint of the wall, before she muttered, "Take me back to that museum all those years ago, so I can tell my 10-year-old self to write a lot of books, to read a lot more of them, to learn the guitar, to become a rock star like I always wanted, or maybe an author." Her voice broke as she slowly stood back up. "To hurry up and find the love of my life, because I've spent it entirely alone, to quit my soul-sucking office job, or to not even take it in the first place, to hug my mom long and hard every chance I get, to tell my dad I forgive him, to make peace right then and there with how insignificant I am, because I am." Ron ground his teeth at the volume of her final sentence, shocked at how viscerally uncomfortable the word insignificant made him feel. "I'll be sure to speak to Deity tomorrow at..." Alice threw the knife with all her strength at his projection, ending the call. "I'm sorry, Ron. I am. But there's nothing I can do. We don't undo what's already been done." Chris, the head honcho over at Time, was being irksomely dense. Ron grumbled, gesticulating at the big machine before them. "I know that. Nothing needs to be undone, just done over again. Run Earth's clock backward a bit, only 20 years. Come on, I'll owe you one. Memories on board. They already primed the woman. We're just waiting on you." Chris ran a hand through his silvering hair. "Deity approved this?" "Not, as such." "Sure did. For one human woman? Consider it an experiment. You've ran back time before, for far duller reasons. I don't know if I'd consider what we needed done with that woman in the Chaplin film to be..." Ron waved a dismissive hand. Chris, seriously? The time boss rolled his eyes. Fine. Who, when, and where am I sending her? Ron explained Alice's plight, and Chris pushed various buttons on the machine. Just send back her present consciousness into her childhood self. That's it. You do realize that this might kill the woman. We've never reversed memory back into time before. He shrugged and scratched his nose, looking at a sleeping Alice on the screen in front of them. It's an experiment. Chris nodded, then cranked a few more dials. Adult Alice didn't move, but the child Alice on the adjacent screen. Ron cringed as the child screamed and screamed and screamed. Chris sucked in air through his teeth. Child Alice drew frightened looks from the other science museum patrons, until finally being subdued by her mother. Ron scratched his temple, chewed the inside of his cheek. The girl screeched, over and over again in her mother's arms. What's the point? Chris shut the machine off, locking adult Alice into her child body forever, or at least until the sun exploded. He clapped Ron on the shoulder. Call that a success? Ron was silent for a beat, then muttered, Seems like the quick death of the sun might be preferable to the existential crisis brought on by simply thinking about the slow death of it. Think she'll appreciate her life more, this time around? Dunno. Sun's still going to explode on schedule. Board's not budging on it. He sighed. No one will remember her in the end, even if she does make something out of her life. Or maybe they will for a little while, now that she can change some things. That's all most of us can hope for, really. To not be insignificant. To do something important with our lives. He shot a triumphant smile at Chris, feeling overall very pleased with himself. At least he was able to do this. Change this small thing to help such a lovely planet. Chris shot him a confused look. Oh no, she can't change anything, man. She did all this screaming the first time around when she learned the sun was going to explode in 1 billion years too. I told you, nothing can be undone, but she will be able to watch it happen all over again with her adult memories and reasoning. Maybe she'll just learn to be grateful. Humans struggle with that. If you asked me, that's why deity's blowing him up. Ron paled, his grin evaporating. The time boss stretched his arms and cracked his back, and didn't notice the color drain from Ron's face. Anyway, let's get lunch. You're buying. Monster with 2 faces. She tries to persuade me every time I see her. The problem is, she doesn't know me like I know me. She doesn't know I have 2 faces. One, an angelic face, acceptable to society. It's the one I show her and everyone else. The other face is an unsettling one, with the coolness of its dead gray eyes and the chill of its lifeless skin. I keep it locked inside the most hidden parts of me. I can't show it to the world. They won't accept it. How are you doing today, Nicole? She asks as she sips her chamomile tea. The smell makes me nauseous. I hate the smell of lavender. If not the lavender, it could be the honey. Whatever smell exists inside her cup, making her so calm. My fingers itch to shatter the mug in her hands and watch her lose her composure. I detest the way she tilts her head. Mostly, I can't stand the pity in her eyes as she uses her words to claw at my layers. She wants to understand me. I want to understand why she wastes her time. I've spent years with myself, and even I don't know how I became this sick creature writhing in on itself in front of her. Actually, that's a lie. It takes a monster to create a monster. Still, what happens when a monster wants to become human? I search her face like she holds the keys to my humanity. I can't complain. I smile through my words. Life treats me well enough. The clock ticks down on the wall like a slow, dripping faucet. 58 minutes to go. She watches me watch the door. I imagine I look like a dog thrown in a tub for a bath. I need to be clean, yet I watch the door because I hate the water. I watch it like my life depends on it. Any second, the door will crack open with an escape from this horrible magnifying glass I'm under. I wait for more words to pour out of her like suds, washing away the dirtiest parts of me. Last time, we made real progress. I'm proud of you for sharing pieces of your past. It can be hard to share parts of yourself with a stranger. Her words irritate my nervous system, setting me on edge. I'm not sharing parts of me to make her proud. She speaks to me like I have a choice being here. I don't have a choice. I am sick. I am so sick inside. Society says sitting on a couch is the answer to sewing my aching flesh back together into something that looks human. It isn't hard, actually. When I talk about myself, I don't feel anything at all. It's like talking about a stranger to a stranger. She takes another slow sip of her disgusting tea and pierces me with her eyes. They're green with layers of yellow, like a dying lawn on a hot summer's day. Her legs cross in crisp pants, white like hospital walls. I stare with an empty feeling in my chest at her sandals. Her toes peek through the tops with a fresh red pedicure. Rich blonde highlights color her hair, not a single strand out of place. She holds herself together with confidence and grace. I can't help wondering what it's like to love yourself like that. I can't help wondering what it's like to love yourself at all. Last time we spoke about your uncle. Do you want to talk more about what happened? How's your boyfriend? I ask. Is he still out of town? Must be hard. She takes the bait. He should be back the 1st of next month. We spend the next 30 minutes talking about the places he travels for work. She's oblivious to the way I can bat around our conversations like a cat with a mouse. I can't say why I waste these sessions like this. I can, but no one will like the answer. I waste them because I want help, and I don't want help. I want to pretend I'm putting in the work to be more human. Look at me. I am one step closer to being like all the other humans around me. I'm not an empty shell. I am not a monster. with 10 minutes of our session left on the clock. I feel safe sliding over another dirty part of me for her to clean. My fingers tangle themselves in the gray fleece blanket on her couch while I choose my words. I won't tell her the full truth. I'll tell her half and see how she reacts. You never know with humans. They say they want to help you. They only want what's best for you. In my experience, they will throw you under the bus the moment it serves them. I'm not condemning them. Don't get me wrong. How could I? I do the same thing and worse. Sometimes I throw people under the bus for no reason other than because I feel like it. I think I have an addiction, I confess. Her response is safe and neutral. A lot of people struggle with addictions. It takes a lot of courage to ask for help. I rearrange my face into what I think looks like relief. That makes me feel better. Her lips are glossed over with rosy pink tint. I watch, fascinated with the way they glisten as she speaks. What are you struggling with? I pause before I answer. I'm shifting through my memories of the night before. I've been seeing the same man for 6 weeks. His name isn't important. I don't bother too often with things like that. It lasted a little longer this time than it usually does. Thoughts of his hands on my thighs and his lips on my neck make me shiver. I consider how to tell this perfect blonde woman in front of me how sex is the only thing that makes me feel anything at all. 6 weeks before him, it was someone who only lasted 10 minutes. Anthony, was it? We locked eyes in the elevator on our way to biology. College campus was always deserted for our late-night classes. He had dark hair and a lazy smile. His brown eyes lingered on mine a bit too long after the doors closed. And I knew. I closed the gap between us and slipped my tongue into his mouth. He tasted like strawberry Pop-Tarts. He didn't move for a moment. And then, there he was, sliding warm hands up my dress like they had a right to be there. Men are like that. I can't seem to stop eating, I confess. We have only a few minutes left of our session. She spends this time talking to me about how to sit with cravings. It's all in one ear and out the other. She tells me when the impulses hit me, try to resist for as long as I can. If I can resist for 1 hour, resist for 1 hour. If I can resist for 5 minutes, resist for 5 minutes. I smile and thank her for the session. You help me so much. I am grateful for these discussions. I can't tell you how much you've done for me since I started seeing you for therapy. I lie. I quickly shoot for the door. An hour of compassion, real or fake, is too much for me. It makes my skin crawl when people show things like affection or kindness. I wish she would tell me I'm disgusting. I long to hear her tell me I am a waste of space who can't be saved. Anything out of those perfect pink lips, resembling the truth. Instead, she wastes all our time with empty words as she tries to convince me I am not a monster. Hours after our session, I find myself with a strange man I don't know. We had talked earlier on a dating app. He's attractive enough, with a single dimple on his left cheek when he smiles. Not that looks really matter much to me. I slide into a green Toyota Camry with a missing passenger mirror. It smells like cigarettes and old fast food bags. "Baby, you are so hot," he tells me as he paws at my thigh with his calloused fingers. I'll be honest, there is a small part of me who wishes I would stop doing this to myself. I hate the way I give myself to anyone who asks. Yet, that's the thing about addictions. Even if you hate yourself for it, you can't stop. I take his hand and slide it further up my skirt. I hear him breathe in deep, and I can tell how much he wants me. His car brings us to a gloomy-looking house in a sketchy part of town. We are in a dark room that smells like sweat. Before I can blink, he is on me. His fingers are wrapping around my throat. He holds me down, taking what he wants. His other hand is lost in my hair. He pulls it rough enough. It stings, bringing tears to my eyes. I want to scream for him to stop. I don't. Like I told you before, I'm sick inside. I hold myself hostage and force myself to lay still. I won't escape from this. I'll stay until I learn to love it. If I were a bit more human, this would be nothing for me. I'd love it all the same ways all the other humans do. It's only because I am a monster that I feel disgusting inside. The night sky is empty, abandoned by the moon, as we climb in the car for him to take me home. He tells me how captivated he is by my smile, how when he saw it for the first time, he felt like he was the only person left in the world. He asks me when he can see me again. I already know the answer as I climb from his car to the asphalt parking lot, glittering in the street light. The concrete stairwell swallows me into its many shadows, and I am indifferent to the fact I'll never see him again. Another week passes, and I am on her couch again, the therapist. I can feel the bruises on my thighs. There are marks all over my body she can't see, even as I sit in front of her. It's always like this. How often do we sit in front of another person's eyes, and they can't see the wounds covering us? It makes me laugh. Part of me thinks I should confess. I don't bother. You can't tell someone about the wounds you inflict on yourself. Wasn't I asking for it? How are we doing this week, Nicole? I'm fine. How are you? Small talk makes me gag. Even so, I've learned to play the game over the years. It's empty when someone asks you how you are. They ask Yet I promise, when you tell them what's really beneath your surface, they will avoid you after. We're all liars here. Monsters like me are more willing to admit the truth. Ironic, isn't it? How are the nightmares? My body clenches at her words, like she hit me. This is what I'm here for, I remind myself. I'm here to fix my disfigured mind, my malformed thinking, my disturbed existence. I'm here to become human again. He was in them, I admit. As soon as I say the words, he's there with me on the couch. He tucks loose pieces of hair behind my ear and drags me back to our memories together. You're such a pretty girl, Nicole. You know it, don't you? I am 10 years old again, and I nod. I love it when he makes me feel special like this. I am the only one he talks to this way. I mean so much to him. He places an innocent hand on my shoulder and then pulls with long fingers at the lace on my sleeves. Do you like this dress I bought for you? I love it, I tell him, while I give the white lacy dress a twirl for his viewing pleasure. I never knew my dad, so this relationship is special for me. Uncle Dean always goes out of his way to do nice things for my sake. No one has to tell me how lucky I am to have him take care of me. He pulls me onto his lap, where he tugs at my fly-away curls, twisting their chestnut-colored locks in his hands. People tell him all the time what a cute little girl he has. They tell me I look like him. It's almost as if I'm his daughter and not his niece. I've been thinking, Nicole, you are getting older now. And with what a pretty girl you're turning out to be, we have some things to talk about. I look at his eyes, a cold mixture of gray and blue, and hang on to his every word. I've noticed in the past the way people look at him when we go out together. His hair is blonde and wavy in a way that complements his fair skin. His shoulders are broad, and the arms he holds me with are strong, with thick muscles. He's handsome. It's not just me who listens when he speaks. It's like the people around him can't help it. His words are always captivating. His smile makes you feel like you are the only person in the world. I'm proud he belongs to me. I'm worried boys will start giving you problems. He frowns, and it crushes me. I study his lips and wonder what's wrong with me, that boys will give me problems. I can't stand the look of displeasure on his face. I'll do anything to replace it with a smile. My fingers find the bottom of my dress, where I tear at it helplessly. I can't let myself be a burden to him, not when he took responsibility for a child who wasn't his. I think it's important for me to teach you how to handle them for when you're older, don't you think? I nod, eager to cheer him up. You're a good girl, Nicole. I know you'll do fine. He leans in close to my ear, with my curls still twisted in his fingers. When you get older, men will expect you to please them. I don't want you to worry. I'll teach you how. I'll teach you everything you need to know. A voice startles me from my memories. Nicole? Nicole? Where did you go? I look up and see her. The therapist. The one who is supposed to hold all the answers to my questions. The angel who tells me none of this is my fault, and how I am not the monster he made me. I smile towards her, as if I had been here on the couch with her the whole time. I smile as if I don't remember every single lesson he taught me. Is everything all right? Her eyes are concerned. You have tears running down your face. I lift a hand to my cheek and realize she's telling the truth. I touch the wetness with fingers that don't feel like my own. This happens to me all the time. I'm in my body, but I'm not. I don't understand where the tears come from either. After all, I am a monster. I'm numb. Whether I hurt others or make them laugh, I feel nothing inside me at all. This is a safe place, Nicole. I'm here to listen. I can't help finding her words amusing. I've been to safe places before, you see. That's where I discovered safe places are the most dangerous places of all. The places where you let down your guard and trust the people around you, leave you vulnerable. Those kinds of places are where monsters live. You enter them and never know they're watching you, waiting. They wait for the moments they can bury their claws into your flesh, taking things from you that you will never get back. Monsters are real, despite those who lack conviction. It's only fools who believe in safe places. Last night, I sat on my kitchen floor and ate an entire cake. I lie to her again. I couldn't stop myself. Don't you think that makes me disgusting? I can't tell if her sympathy is real or fake. I can't tell if she only has one face, the face she looks at me with, or if she too has another one buried deep inside her. I study her cheetah print shirt and the gold hoop earrings underneath her straightened hair. I can't tell if she's human or if she's another monster like me. We hide so well sometimes that we don't even recognize the monsters deep inside ourselves. Of course, I don't think that, she tells me. Her words offer me the smallest amount of relief. I feel myself relax for only a fraction of a second. It's all I can ever relax after I turned into this creature. I give her my best smile. You don't think I'm a monster? She reassures me she doesn't. I slide out of her heavy wooden door after the rest of our session has passed and remind myself she is a professional. If she saw a human without a beating heart in front of her, she would know it wasn't human anymore. The fact that she doesn't, it means there is still hope for me. Vanish. I tried to be gentle. I tried to come to you slowly, revealing myself in fragments under the growing dimness of dusk. I stepped ever so carefully into the downward cast of the yellow street lamp's sepia light, sending forth first a finger, then a tentative but eager to caress hand. I moved so gently, so slowly, that I felt the cloak of darkness removed from my face, inch by inch, nose first, before there was no more hiding. I did this for you, as not to startle you. Didn't you see? I even smiled. Those sparks of kindness you all boast so easily, like the one you'd given me. And yet, you still screamed, shrieked even. A shrill shriek of survival, one of horror and fear, as if the very sight of me would be your upending. And how you ran, just took off, as if the wind came and swept you away, leaving no blame for yourself. I offered you my most sincere attempt at kindness, an approach akin to that of a person who wishes to greet a cute puppy. And how was it that you repaid me? Screaming and running away. Could you see how that would have made me angry? Do you understand why I had to do what I've done? All I'd ever wanted was to be with you, to be more like you. I just wanted to learn from you. If not for your outburst, things could have been different. I thought maybe you were different. I'd wanted you to be different. I'd hoped that you would be the one to accept me, welcome me, and show me what it was like to be like you. A glowing firefly in the night, leading me out of my solemn and lonely abyss. I thought you would be unlike the others, who'd taken one look at me and condemned me to hell with a snarl, thrusting a spear of fear between us like a barrier. Me and them, water and oil. Two things that could never mix. I'd hoped you'd be different. I hoped it with all the blood pumping in my chest. I thought you would see how much I'd longed for us to mix, and how much I'd dreamt of the opening of your arms, wide, like I'd watched you do to so many others around you. Even that bowling ball of a man I saw you squishing faces with, his arms barely able to stretch around his own belly to wrap around you as you rocked slowly together behind your bedroom window. It was such a wonder to me how he was not greeted as I was, what with the cruel things I'd seen him doing. I'd wondered how the fear would gleam in your eyes once you'd finally learned the truth about the man you let stay in your bed. All those dirty and lustful glances he'd given the children at the park when you were not around, telling you he had late meetings so he could take the long way and feed his devilish desires, window shopping the younglings as they played. Yet, you did not look at him as the foul and disgusting monster he was. Instead, it was I with whom you'd shown such disgust and foulness, a violent terror shooting through those eyes at my unveiling this evening. You were certainly not how I'd hoped you would be. You were just like the others, who saw my burned and battered face, the scarred and charred mask of skin I'd been forced to present. I saw the judgment glinting between your lashes, just like the rest of them. Monster, they'd called me, without even giving me a chance, without even a hello or a flicker of pity. Even that I would have understood, maybe even welcomed. Perhaps that was what I'd been missing. A sympathizing and tender outreach. A compassionate soul there to guide me towards the light. After all, darkness was all I had ever known, all I had ever seen, save for the blinding blaze of the flames my mother tossed me into, spouting about how I'd belonged in hell for devouring my twin brother before he'd had a chance. I'd heard people say there is darkness in all of us. Perhaps I'd consumed all of my brother's when I took his life for my own. Perhaps we would have been all right if he'd not vanished before his first breath. Though perhaps not. What with the mother we had, he'd gotten the better end of the deal, I'd supposed. And what had mother expected? She, the tree. I, the apple. For years, I tried to be a good person. I tried to be anything but the sum of my scars. Tried to make friends. Tried to reach out. But you tell me how much of it one can take before he breaks. 1 year? 5 years? A decade? Try 3 decades. 30 years. Monster. You hear it enough, you start to believe it. No one gave me a chance. No one gave me the time of day. Just gruesome looks and disdained scowls. No hello nods passing on the streets or returned waves. No pleases and thank yous at the shops. Just flashes of fear and short silent submissions. Anything to end our interactions quickly. People saw me then sort of monster. So, I'd said, a monster? That's what you want? That's what you get. I'd decided I'd become the very thing deserving of those unpleasant greetings. I'd become the thing people always feared to be true, hiding away, seeking comfort in darkness, making nightmares a reality. What freedom, what relief to finally surrender to myself. Mother would have been proud, I'd thought, though I never did lift the pillow to find out, as she wiggled and writhed beneath my arms. Just a couple of minutes, Mother. You'll see your son soon. Even then, I wasn't convinced I was monstrous enough for her. After all, I'd done her a favor. Her death, my first, was much gentler than the ones who'd followed. The kindness I'd shown my mother was perhaps the last bit that existed in my body. Or, so I'd thought. The day that I met you, enlivened a remaining ember I hadn't realized was still burning. There was a weak and muted flicker of something other than darkness that remained somewhere deep inside me, somewhere you were able to touch. Do you remember? That day at the coffee shop, your purple polka dot headband tied primly in a bow, your hair pulled back into a high bun with just a few curly strays dancing around the edges of your cheeks. How you'd actually smiled at me before asking for my order, and then how you'd thanked me once I'd paid, wishing me a good day. There was no grimace in your manner, no hesitation at my mutilated face. You were so pretty, so kind. Not like my mother, not like any of the others. How had I gone so many years without this perfect human? That is the most profound thing about darkness. Even a flash of light is enough to change the entire atmosphere. You were that light. So there was still goodness in the world. There was still hope for me, past be damned. You showed me that, and so I'd followed you home that day, and many of the days since then. I watched you. I protected you, like the rarity that you were. I tried to preserve your kindness, study it, waiting in the shadows for our next encounter. And when I'd discovered there was already a man in your life, I'd followed him too. I had to make sure you were safe, that no one was threatening your goodness, as if your light was already spreading to me, the way fire always does. I cared for you by taking care of him. There was no room for a pedophile in your life. He was a threat to you, a rapid of white waters sure to extinguish you. I couldn't let that happen, but after he was gone, you disappeared. The next day, when I went into the coffee house, hoping to see you, expecting to see you, sparkling with relief and joy, for finally you were free. I did that. I'd envisioned it many times, me waltzing into your shop, you ready with open arms to thank me, your savior, you, my savior. But you were not there. Then, or the next day, or the next. Where were you? I watched outside your house, the lights going on in the morning, then off as the evening turned to night. But you did not leave. You'd disappeared in plain sight, left me alone, locked yourself up in your house, as if freedom meant absolutely nothing to you. Had it been one more day out there waiting, I'll admit, I'm not sure I could have forgiven you for such ingratitude. So, you can imagine my delight when you stepped out for a walk this evening, the horizon still bleeding its last drops into the twilight, like a sign. You, my last dash of hope. Monster, they'd called me. They, but not you. So, why then did you scream? Why such a vile and repulsive response at the sight of me? as I stepped out into the light to greet you. What had changed between our first meeting? I did not take you for flighty, and yet you'd made my breath go raspy and harsh in our chase, as if I were a wolf and you, a delectable lamb. I'd only wished to greet you, to reacquaint ourselves after our unbearable separation, to refortify the promise of our union. That was the moment I'd realized it. Those endless, suffocating seconds. You were just like the others. There was no light in you at all. You saw me as they did. Monster, imagine the anger. Imagine the betrayal. I'd only ever wanted to be with you, to be more like you. But oh, how you fooled me. You were much harder to carry to the car than I'd thought you'd be. And you certainly had a strong and fiery fight in you. I suppose that was the light I thought I'd seen. Because looking at you now as you lay on my table, there is neither life nor light behind those bright, unblinking eyes. Gardenia. The family left Gardenia around 5 in the morning. They quietly packed their things and left, stopping only to clean the fridge, because they felt strongly that a dirty fridge would speak poorly of them and their abrupt departure. When they left, the fridge was clean, and there was still blood all over the walls. The blood did not belong to anyone in the family. It had started pouring down from the ceiling, and the family decided that was the final straw. It was one thing when specters appeared at the top of the stairs with 2 heads and horns. It was another when knives were flying across the kitchen, narrowly missing the head of the family's youngest, who was only 2. It was startling when the family dog suddenly grew to 5 times its size and ate the family's sedan. All of that was unfortunate. But the family had gotten Gardenia for a steal. They were apprised that it had a colorful past. They were a bit put off by it, but then they saw the guest bathrooms, and the very thought of having guests, let alone guest bathrooms, was simply too good to pass up. It took blood coming down the walls 3 weeks later for them to vacate. Once they were gone, the bloody devil manifested out of the television and made itself a sandwich. It was proud of the family. When they had first moved in, it hadn't expected them to last more than a few days. It figured the first time the lights flickered and the cicadas swarmed the toilet, they'd be out the door. That was the thing about some families. You never quite knew how much they were willing to put up with for a house with a fireplace and good insulation. The bloody devil ran its clawed paw along the wall and licked up a smidge of blood. This batch was too spicy, it said to itself. I should have used less red pepper. That night, as the bloody devil was falling asleep in the guest bathroom tub, it heard a sound. When it opened its 5th eye, it saw what looked like a little girl standing in the doorway of the bathroom. For a second, the bloody devil thought the little girl was one of the daughters from the family that had fled that morning. But when it blinked, the girl was gone. Just to be safe, the bloody devil turned off all the lights in the house so it could scan the darkness for any signs of living energy. When nothing turned up, it chalked the whole experience up to a bad dream. It returned to its bath, but when it did, it found that the shower had been turned on and steam had filled the room. There, on the mirror, was a message written in what appeared to be a human hand. We're back. From that day forward, the bloody devil, who had haunted Gardenia since the day it was built on top of a collapsed pagan temple, never knew a moment's peace. Children's toys would materialize in the living room. Toys with sharp edges and wheels that the bloody devil would step on, yowling as it fell backwards into the fireplace. Dirty dishes were somehow always in the sink, despite the bloody devil only eating off Ouija boards. At night, as it tried to sleep, it could hear the sound of a man and a woman in the next room. I'm telling you, we don't have the money to stay an extra night. We'd have the money if you took that job my father offered you. We've been over this, Natalie. I am not taking a handout from your father, so I guess you have to tell the kids why we're leaving Orlando early then. The conversation didn't scare the bloody devil as much as it made it very, very anxious. Were Natalie and the man going to stay together? They sounded so unhappy. Were they going to break up? Why was he hearing this when they weren't even here? That wasn't the only time it heard voices. You are not going out dressed like that, young lady. Jessie's mother lets her go out like this. That's why Jessie's going to end up in a documentary someday. What does that even mean? The bloody devil would hide behind the couch whenever these arguments were going on. It couldn't locate the source of the voices, no matter how hard it tried. But it also couldn't bear to just sit on his throne, made of vole skulls, and pretend it didn't hear the conflicts. They were always so domestic. It preferred higher stakes, life and death, passion and terror. Hearing a mother and daughter go at it because the daughter put on too much eyeliner made the bloody devil want to rip off one of its two heads, the one with the ears. After a century of living in and haunting Gardenia, it was the taco night that made the bloody devil abandon the house. It wasn't expecting any trouble, what with it being a Tuesday, and what with taco night always being something the family seemed to look forward to, based on what the bloody devil could surmise going off only voices and the satisfied sounds of chewing, while a mysterious odor of sour cream and pico filled the air. It made the bloody devil hungry, but it couldn't eat anything because there didn't appear to be any food there. It was torturous being exposed to such lovely aromas without being able to feast. It tried to placate itself by gnawing on the leg bone of a unicorn, but it just wasn't the same. The taco night started out fine, as best the bloody devil could tell. Plates were laid out. Soft shells were placed next to hard shells. And the dad made a corny joke about tortillas, as he always did. Groans followed. Then some clanking of silverware and the sound of mastication. The bloody devil bit down on what little bit of meat was left on its unicorn leg, but it fantasized about what the ground beef must taste like when covered with shredded cheese and lettuce. That was when one of the daughters announced that she wouldn't be attending her own high school graduation. The bloody devil had no idea why the teenager chose this instance to make such an announcement, when everybody seemed to be having such a nice time. But as far as the bloody devil could tell, this was just something teenagers did. They found themselves in a pleasant moment and felt a compelling urge to ruin it. Right away, there was a fracas. The mother informed her daughter that she absolutely would be going to graduation because she and her husband did not work and save to send their daughter to a fancy private school, only so that she could skip the grand finale. The daughter then pointed out that the mother doesn't work, so really, it's just the father who should decide if the daughter has to go to graduation. There was a pause. While the bloody devil imagined, the mother waited on the father to back her up. But then the father just said, "I didn't go to my graduation either." And then the mother exploded on the father, which led to the teenage daughter shouting in defense of her father, while the youngest child cried, and one or two middle children began to loudly sing some song about gravy and a turkey's neck for no discernible reason, other than maybe trying to diffuse the tension or quell their own anxiety. At one point, it sounded as though someone, probably the mother, went around picking up the various plates full of soft shells and hard shells and pico, and began smashing them on the floor. This led to more noise, and somebody ran out the front door, slamming it behind them. The sound of the door slamming was like a shot going off inside the bloody devil. It had to leave. It had no choice. It couldn't live like this. Maybe it should have stuck around for the children. After all, the bloody devil might have been made from the nightmares of demons and the spirit of Lucifer, but it was at least civilized enough to know that children need a stabilizing force in their lives, and maybe the bloody devil could provide them for them. But how? No, it was no use. Sticking around wasn't a good idea for anyone. The bloody devil left Gardenia around 5 in the morning the very next day. Shortly after it departed, the family returned back to the home. They had taken a Ouija board from the fridge before they left. The bloody devil was always leaving its dirty Ouija boards in the fridge. They soon discovered that the board was a kind of portal into the house, and when they saw the bloody devil growing comfortable in their home, it made them angry. Not angry enough to do anything about it, of course. A bloody devil was still a bloody devil. They had no intention of going back. But soon, living in the rental home they occupied after leaving Gardenia started to feel suffocating. They began to argue. The eldest daughter began to act out. The middle children took to writing scary messages in steam in the small bathroom they all shared just to scare their youngest sibling. Toys were left everywhere. It all built up to a taco night that was, without question, one of the worst nights in the family's history. It wasn't until the next morning when one of the middle children brought the Ouija board to her mother as she was tossing another dirty dish in the sink. She pointed out that the bloody devil appeared to have left Gardenia. Natalie, the mother, moved the board all around so she could see each part of the house, and sure enough, there was no sign of the bloody devil anymore. "Well," she said, "I suppose that means we can go back. As for the bloody devil, he never went back to Gardenia, but that's probably for the best. It doesn't mean he loves the family any less, but that's mostly because he never loved them in the first place. The green-eyed monster. Beware, for my appetite is hard to satisfy. Once I have sunk my teeth into you, savored your particular taste, it is very hard for me to let go. Think of when you suck juices from the bone, relishing every last drop of roasted meat, or the times when you lick the plate greedily, trusting that no one is watching, sauce dripping from your chin. That is like me, feasting on a most delectable dish. You do not need to be marinated, tenderized, or steeped in spices. I enjoy you quite as you are, yet it is remarkable, your ability to flavor yourself to my liking. Sometimes sweet, sometimes salty, always spicy hot. Oh yes, the dish you serve might seem slow, cooked, but passion is always the flame that roasts you in the end. Basted in your own juices, I just turn the spit, watching the flames lick higher. Curse me if you will, mock me if you must, but I only gnaw on your bones because you tempt me. And like a dog with a bone, you know I must leap and grab, shaking you in my jaws. Yes, you can say my appetite disgusts you, this frenzied feeding. But I am only such a glutton because you heap my plate ever higher. If I feast, it is only because you throw such rich pickings my way. I grow, fatten myself on your largesse. The bounty of you, scabs on your knees and scars upon your heart. I lurk in the shadows of your nursery, sniffing out the moment that is ripe for me to bare my teeth and bite. Your baby sister, silhouetted against the nursery window, wreathed in light. Your mother dozes in the rocking chair. The words of a lullaby stream from her mouth, even in sleep. She rocks and croons and kisses the little head. You wonder at this new picture this peace, so smooth compared to the rough and tumble of time with you. At the door, you watch, suddenly an intruder in your own home. Knowing the interloper can't enter, mustn't break this peace as then noise. Babies' cries will cut like glass, scenting the air. I smell the musk of your mother's slumber, the baby's sweet new smell, clean of the reek of age and pain, and what you feel when I sink my fangs into you for the first time. You flinch. Of course you do, and try to shake me off. But I clamp down all the harder. Look, I say, shaking you like the rag doll that used to bring you comfort. Look at how she holds her up to your father. Look at how he is enfolding them both in his arms. Where are you in this golden circle? A dark shadow, cast out and forgotten. I bite until I feel your resolve snap, a broken wishbone, and then I know you're a dish I can feast upon my whole life long. I eat my fill and lay you down, chewed, stripped clean, only able to lie there, staring up into my clear green eyes. But sometimes sweet treats can sicken. That first taste, like a candy kiss, can cloy, and soon it is salty foods I crave. I wait my time, hunger growing, growling in the pit of my stomach, louder as the years pass. When I can wait no longer, I prowl to the pitch where you practice every week. Coach is handing out the accolades: best pass, best team player, and the one you covet, man of the match. He walks down the line and stops by your best friend, shaking him by the hand, slapping him on the back. Stealthily, I latch onto your ankle and sink my teeth into your soft, pliable, and welcoming flesh. And with a small whimper, you let me feed. Others go to the locker, get washed and changed, and you stand there, alone. I gourd and guzzle while you watch him and the girl you long to talk to, a dancing moth around his flame. Yes, sometimes the salt you baste yourself in, week after week, game after game, night after night, streaming down your face and soaking your pillow, tastes sweeter than all the candy you can buy. But what is my particular favorite, you ask? Well, as you're a fellow epicure, and you won't let it rest, I'll confess. Steep yourself in spices, give it all a good cayenne kick. Set my mouth on peppery fire, for I like a blast of heat the best. Passion. Yes, that is the marinade you should steep yourself in. Ladle after ladle of thick, oozing passion. And you, poor, tender fool, that is just what you do. Watching them kiss after he brings the cup home for the team. Picturing them hand in hand, kicking up the leaves as the autumn wind lifts their hair and hearts. And as Christmas sweeps in, her snowy mantle wrapped tightly about her. You are roasting in the furnaces of hell. Lying down in the heat you radiate, I feed and feed, growing fatter than the goose and all its trimmings. Glistening with fat, I bask in the gluttony you permit me, my green eyes forever trained on you. Indulged, I wax corpulent, rolling with my folds, a Falstaff with fangs. Still you toss me titbits, curled in your bed, picturing your lover, encircled by another's arms. He is faceless, nameless, a fear made flesh which you feed me from your hand. We are never satiated, even when we walk down the aisle, turn and watch. With predatory eyes, the vision of your lovely bride, regarding you now, more morsel than meat, like a thin scrape of butter on a meager scrap of bread. I feel almost compelled to apologize on the behalf of others. Such a shame the family never comes to fatten you up, or that sporty friend doesn't pop round for a beer. And your wife? Well, perhaps the less said there, the better. At least, you can rely on me, patting my head. I'm your trusty companion, no longer a loathed monster, rather a loyal pet, forever walking at your side. The doctor. Don't touch me. Keep your distance. I've heard that every day now for 9 months. Doesn't make things easy when you're the town's GP. First, it was the fires, then it was the virus. Everything has turned to shit in Maui after the president was re-elected. Okay, he probably has nothing to do with it. But we need to blame someone, don't we? I put on my PPE bunny suit and wait at the Kihei Pier for the boat to arrive. Second boat this month, the sergeant says. Locked and loaded, I say, showing him my assault rifle and giving him a hint of a salute, even though military ranks no longer exist. Good stance, Doc. Besides being able to hold a rifle, I'm here to do spotting. Being the town's GP, people think I'm the best person at detecting who has been infected. What I don't tell those people is that the virus is invisible, and we don't have any medical supplies or way to detect it. And since we've run out of insulin last month, I've lost much of the feeling in my fingers. And my toes? We've lost our connection weeks ago. One day at a time. I need to carry on. I have a duty to my patients. The boat nears the dock. The men on board are pointing guns back at us. It makes sense. They are as suspicious of us as we are of them. They don't know whether the virus has taken hold here. They look nervous. That's a good sign. I hold my numb finger well away from the trigger of my AR-15. When the takeover began, it was easy to spot them. The freelancers. The first thing they lost was self-care. All they did was work. They spent no time looking in the mirror. All they wanted to do was to book billable hours. We normal people used to work 8 hours a day. They could work 20. But lately, the gig guru's AI has injected more of a human touch into the virus, leaving just enough human instinct for them to fly under the radar. Unless one is very, very discerning. A man on the front of the incoming boat shouts, "Honolulu Medical Supply Run, Captain Johnson from Tripler AMC." The sergeant gives a proper military salute to the boat. "Sergeant Jaworski, are we good to dock, Sergeant?" "All good here, Captain." The sergeant nods and signals the others to tie up the incoming boat. A moment later, Captain Johnson jumps off. I study his face closely. Well-defined cheekbones. We've all on a starvation diet these days. He notices my stare. "Hey, chill out. We're friendlies. I keep my distance. Gig Guru's virus is so large, it doesn't spread easily. It can't travel through the air without its high molecular weight making it drop to the ground. How it infects people, no one is exactly sure. Every story that changes history begins with a spark. An event so small and insignificant, no one noticed it at the time. Hitler giving his first speech on a corner in Vienna. The CIA attaching a missile to a drone in Afghanistan in 2002. The AI apocalypse started with something even smaller. In 2020, Gig Guru, a freelance company, sent health supplements to its workforce. They saw the programmers who received free yerba mate pills booked 12% more hours. The creatives who received green tea extract had higher customer satisfaction scores. It worked so well, Gig Guru hired data scientists to expand their biohealth program. The scientists expanded the system to program to giving freelancers suggestions on how to receive ADHD prescriptions. The next year, they requested their DNA samples. "We've been vaccinated," Captain Johnson says. "The military lab in Honolulu has come up with new tech. We're here to bring it to you." The captain holds out his hand for a handshake. I instinctively back off. "Why didn't you let us know about this over the radio?" the sergeant asks. "Operational secrecy." The sergeant nods. Apparently, this makes sense to him. The captain and his men haul crates of medical equipment off the boat. They take over our abandoned ice cream parlor at the end of the pier. Someone yanks the starting cord on the generator they brought. The lights turn on. They begin plugging in all the medical equipment. The rumble of the generator and the displays lighting up signals modern civilization. Something we are all longing for. I feel it's my duty to safeguard the best interest of my patients. What if Gig Gugu alters the virus? I ask the captain. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. I look to the sergeant for his opinion. The sergeant looks uneasy, but he defers to the captain. The scale of the military presence in Honolulu is hundreds of times greater than ours. And what do we have to lose? "I'll go first," the sergeant says. He leads from the front. I stand back and him receive a series of medical checks. They take a vial out of a freezer box and give him an injection in the shoulder. "Don't feel a thing," he says with a big grin. The one he gives us when we are all worried about something. Everyone in our community receives their injection before me. I watch them closely for side effects. I can give aid if needed. Finally, it's my turn, and I sit down. Captain Johnson takes my blood pressure and oxygen levels with the jury-rigged equipment. I don't recognize some of the machines that they've put together. Your blood pressure is running a bit high, but everything else is normal. How have you been feeling lately? A little off, but hanging in there. I feel my ribs poking out from my Aloha shirt. Any symptoms? He asks. I stare at my toes, the ones I can't feel. It wouldn't help to complain about diabetes right now, so I say nothing. I'll ask later if they have any insulin on Honolulu. All good, I say. This man is a great patient. The captain looks at all his equipment and winks at his crew in the room. I stand up from my chair, and he gives me a hug. I want to shed a tear, as I haven't been hugged by anyone for years. I think of my daughter and how much I miss her. She's in California. It's probably too late, but I think there's still hope. Thank you for your service, Doctor, the captain says. He hugs me even tighter, his arms almost crushing me. Someone comes up close behind me. I feel a sting in my buttocks. He's the only one infected, I hear him say, before everything goes dark. Teddy bear. It's all your fault, you know. Picture it now. I was standing at that sparkling marble countertop, sorting through the mail, when I saw it. A thin envelope, addressed to Joanne Roberts. It sat on my counter for hours while I cleaned up the kitchen, completed an online yoga workout, and took a hot shower. Young's Storage Company, in red letters, as the header to the return address, gave me plenty of info to begin searching online. Final notice, stamped in red across the front, let me know what it was about. Still, I wanted to know the specifics. I must confess, noticed my first night in the house, there weren't any photos of you. Not even a wedding picture. All of the decor was masculine with sharp corners. No color. Somewhere, deep down, I knew he had erased you, but above that knowledge, I had known I was prepared to replace you. I put on my best little red sundress and made myself lunch. A turkey sandwich, side salad, Diet Coke. Did I purposefully knock over my drink? Onto the letter? No. All right, you caught me. I did. Why would my husband have a letter from a storage company addressed to you? It was easy to open the letter, but the only thing inside was a boring notice about you being behind on payments. How can a ghost be behind on payments? I asked him all those questions over dinner. He wrapped me up in kisses, saying, "I'll sort it all out tomorrow, my dear." I didn't want you to be surrounded by her memory. It seemed cruel, but I couldn't part myself entirely from her. She always had a storage unit to house her stuff, so I just kept it going. His beautiful eyes stared at the leftover gravy on his plate, creating a masterpiece with the mashed potatoes. Then he changed the topic and complimented my dress. Did I mention that Jonathan picked all my dresses for me? I remember that day so vividly, so fondly. We had been walking around the mall on our third date after gorging ourselves on soft pretzels and soda pop, when he pulled me into this shop with a pretty little poppy on the sign. We walked past the mini skirts in neon colors, past the intricately woven crop tops, and into the section at the back of the store where dresses hung on racks with signs reading discount. All of the tags had little red stickers on them, marking their new price with the old price in block black print clearly beneath it, so you truly understood the bargain you were getting. Jonathan fingered through them, looked me up and down, and returned to the rack. I did the same, trying to laugh through the pain of explaining my dress size to a new guy. But Jonathan was an old hat at all of this. He was a widower, after all. Mom lost her mind when I told her I met a guy. You know how mothers can be. They just worry. I played it smart, though. I introduced Jonathan into the conversation, all casual, like he was a description of sunny weather. I met a guy, Mom, I said, and her whole body shifted in the salon chair. It was such an abrupt change. Her pedicurist rushed to grab towels and mop up the oily, warm water she had sloshed everywhere. She demanded details. I told her everything I could. That Jonathan was a kind man, that he was incredibly musically talented, that he led the whole church every Sunday at the college mass in song, and, oh yeah, he's a widower. That detail shut her up for a bit. Mom begged me every week to come to church with her and Dad. I always had an excuse why I couldn't manage to go. Of course, the knowledge of Jonathan's existence somehow excused all the excuses. It made it all make sense. It was that final piece of the puzzle. But I could see in her eyes that the word widower frightened her. I watched it wash over her like a wave. It crashed into her heart. It scared her with all of its unspoken realities. An age gap that requires both hands to count, kids, baggage, survivor's guilt. Would I spend my whole life measuring up to another woman? I assured her that day that I could handle being courted by a widower. Jonathan, in his most charming state, was a master at courtship. After all, he had succeeded in the task at least once. He bought flowers, insisted on meeting Mom and Dad with wine in hand, and when he knelt down on one knee, the whole world held its breath, waiting for my answer. Of course, it was yes. It had to be yes. Be honest. Did you see the signs? We attended the mandatory meetings with our local priest, who already adored Jonathan, perhaps more than me. He even used our story in a Sunday homily about the importance of the vocation of marriage in the church. He said, "I was once approached by a parishioner, our beloved Jonathan, who said he was called to serve God with his voice, and I simply couldn't say no. Just remember, if God calls you to serve, there's nearly no way for me to deny the request." And we all looked to the rafters. I swear Jonathan winked at me. His mother taught him piano. His father taught him to pick a career worth having, which is how he had the gumption to endure college, law school, and life as a first-year associate. All of these milestones belong to the first Mrs. Roberts. Jonathan didn't bring her into the conversation until halfway through our first date. "Listen," he said, as he leaned across the metal table of the cafe. "I've done this before. I am serious about it. I want to get married again. I am called to marriage. I know you're young. I never want you feeling rushed into it. It's a serious commitment." I swear he stole those words right from my father's lips. Yet I smiled. I nodded. I promised I could hold it together, and if I squinted, I could block out the stands of gray in his jet black hair. He laughed when I told him that joke. "Wouldn't you? Dad takes Jonathan out golfing every weekend, while Mom and I get our nails done. It started out as a habit when we were busy planning the wedding, but it turned into something more for them. They'd come back flushed and happy, giggling, like schoolgirls with secrets. They'd sweep Mom and I up in their arms, and we'd all go out to eat at a fancy restaurant, and Jonathan would pull out his black credit card with that devil-may-care grin before driving me back to the 4-bedroom house I shared with the girls from Bible study. He'd give me a peck on the cheek. I'd press my back up against the cold door and cross out another day on my calendar until graduation. My cap and gown came in a navy blue and gold. My diploma, 4 years of blood, sweat, and tears, rolled up into a single sheet of fancy parchment, eventually ended up in the back of the closet. But on that day, I knew that the diploma wasn't what I was walking out those auditorium doors with. No, I was walking out with my fiancé, whom my family adored, as my friends crowded me shouting, "5 months until you get your MRS degree. You would have adored our wedding day. It was so perfectly perfect in every way." Jonathan had told me that his first wedding was in mid-June, so we decided to have a winter wedding. October 20th. We chose a Friday so that we could advertise the event as an excuse for a long weekend. He was practiced at catering tasting and planning weather-based backup plans. It was easy to forget why he knew how to do it all. Jonathan's parents, longtime managers in the hospitality industry, ensured we had the very best rates for our guests, and a beautiful hall for the reception. It all went to plan. The gorgeous, full Mass with readings Jonathan chose so as not to repeat any from his first wedding. The quick trip to the local hotel where we danced the night away, and the shuttle ride the next morning out to the airport for our honeymoon. I had wanted somewhere warm, but the first Mrs. Roberts insisted on Hawaii, so I settled for a weekend in a Colorado mountain town. We rented a 2-bedroom condo with a huge jetted tub. We spent most of the weekend there, but Jonathan had insisted we step out to do some shopping, to eat a good meal, and drink a good glass of wine. See, that's the thing about Jonathan. When he's got his eyes locked on yours, that enticing bite of elk steak balanced on the edge of his fork, you'd do anything for him. I know I did. Do you know how long it took for Sandy to tell me all about her? The first Mrs. Roberts? My brand spanking new mother-in-law took me out to lunch a month after the wedding. We ordered an appetizer and sparkling drinks, and she launched into the story of the ghost who haunted my new husband's heart. I didn't even know your name until that day. It was Joanne. I was told Joanne was very pretty. She was a blonde with a slim waist and easy laugh. She wasn't close to her parents, so she clung to her new in-laws, coming to Sandy for advice every weekend over a glass of wine, to Leonard for help with her car troubles, which seemed to pop up nearly twice a month. That Joanne, she was apparently spectacular. She was the girl next door, literally. Sandy set up play dates on the regular between her son and Joanne when they were in elementary too. Rescue Joanne from her tragic home life. Have I mentioned that the first time I visited Jonathan's parents, they still had the old prom photo of the king and queen proudly displayed on the fireplace mantel? In fact, Sandy walked me over to it before dessert was even served. Don't worry, it was Joanne's favorite, pineapple upside cake. Jonathan told a different story of the first Mrs. Roberts. Did you know he only ever calls you the first? According to him, she was complicated and exhausting and a challenge. He always frowned when he spoke of her and held his chin in his hands, cleared his throat, or took another sip of red wine. So I dropped it. Joanne was always the hot poker of our marriage. The demand came a week after that letter. Jonathan locked eyes with me over coffee, scrambled eggs, and toast. He forbid me from going into the garage, saying, "I can't afford the payments on the storage unit. I've moved a box of her stuff into the garage. I don't want you getting hurt." I nodded and avoided that place like the plague, except last Sunday, when I stood in front of the garage door for 20 minutes before using the spare key we kept hung on the hook shaped like a moose's antlers, to unlock it. Jonathan's car was gone since he went to the office for the day. His latest trial was scheduled for the next day, so some final details simply needed arranging. He had made me breakfast. There was even a little note bearing his love. I had been perfectly happy eating my meal. It wasn't until I turned on the shower that I even considered the garage. See, I was comfy and cozy in a steamy shower when all the lights went out. I screamed from panic and called out Jonathan's name several times before I vaguely remembered that our breaker panel was in the garage. So I rinsed quickly, dried more quickly, and threw on some leggings before heading outside. Yes, I considered calling Jonathan. Of course I did. I even considered calling my father, or father-in-law, or mother, or mother-in-law, or knocking on the doors of some friendly neighbors. But I figured I was not just a 25-year-old, but a married woman, a wife. If I was ever to become the mother Jonathan needed me to be for our children, I had better be able to switch a breaker. The garage was musty, dusty, gross. Some faint lines from dust remained on our cement floor, where Jonathan always parked his car. The huge freezer he received as a wedding present from my father didn't even whir. I grimaced and examined my scene. There was my bike, the one with the big blue basket that Jonathan had surprised me with for my first birthday with him. There were all of his hunting outfits. He hated when I called them outfits, but what else would I call them? There was his splitting axe, his felling axe, and his hand axe hung up on the wall. There was a tent we bought for our first anniversary. It made me smile, and in the corner were 3 black totes with yellow lids piled high on against a wall. But I could still make out the silver of the breaker panel, so I marched over and gently shoved them to the side. I could clearly see 2 switches weren't like the others, so I clicked them over. The freezer began to whir to life. I was left with a satisfied grin. You would have been proud. I hope we would have been friends in another life. The big sister, little sister dynamic I always prayed for. When I went to slide the totes back, the top one fell. I was left to clean up old photo albums of Jonathan's childhood. I had seen all of them before, but still paused to stroke the giggling face of Jonathan on his 10th birthday. Around him, balloons decorated the backyard. A huge cake in the shape of a cowboy hat had lit candles. And of course, the present table was overflowing. His little lips puckered as he blew out the candles. I could practically hear the squeals of excited children. I went to pile the tote back up, but decided to slide the 2 remaining totes back into place first, so as not to have the 3rd one fall again. As they were tucked back into place, I noticed the middle one wasn't quite sealed shut, so I went to close it, and found I couldn't. I heard the sound of Jonathan's voice chastising me. If you're gonna do anything, do it right, or don't do it at all. So I took the yellow lid off. Before me were all of Joanne's dresses. I recognized their bright colors from Sandy's photos. I found my hands sifting through them without the full consent of my mind. They felt smooth like water between my fingers, and I held them up to my chest, twirling in a dusty garage all alone. At the bottom of the tote was one final dress and a teddy bear. The dress was white with a blue flower pattern. I grabbed it and grimaced with a pounding heart, noticing the stains of blood in the center of the bust line, the tear where the weapon made its entrance and exit. Any woman who has endured her monthly visitor knows the color of dried blood. There was no excuse that he could come up with. It wasn't paint or food. It was blood. The bear bore the same markings, and I fell to the garage floor. Jonathan found me hours later. He picked me up, tutting as he went. He placed all of her dresses back in the box, but kept the teddy bear out. He sealed up the tote and helped me into the car. We drove in silence, the only light being from the full moon. Even if I had words, I don't know if my throat could make them. It had gone silent after the screaming and the crying. My exhausted eyes fluttered closed and didn't open until I could tell we had stopped, until I was certain we wouldn't start again, until I felt Jonathan's cool fingers stroking my hot cheek. He wore a sad face, like a clown without makeup. They start out so good, so kind, so loving. They promise to be good, but then they stop. They open letters not addressed to them, ask questions they shouldn't ask. He threw the new dress at me and returned minutes later to take me by one hand. He gave me the teddy for the other one. Our footsteps sounded so loud in the dried-out grass and the silence of the graveyard. Until we arrived. I am the second Mrs. Roberts. I am standing at your grave in my very best black heels and little black dress. My sweaty hands clutch the brown teddy bear I found in an old dusty tote tucked in the corner of our old dusty garage. Jonathan smiles at me for the first time. He pulls out his gun. He leans in close. I close my eyes and taste his kiss one last time. Bedtime for Muriel. Cocoa, warm, not scalding, with pink marshmallows. And use a mug this time. I don't need to lose any more porcelain by knocking it off the table in the middle of the night. Use your brain, for fuck's sake. Yes, Muriel, said Angela, nodding as she tucked the hummingbird motif duvet around the octogenarian's neck. I'll be right back. You just get comfy and listen to Barry. Listen to Barry, the old woman with the silver hair scoffed, shuffling under the covers as if in criticism of the way she'd been positioned. Why do I have to listen to Barry? He's a wanker. Why do you always play him? Because you love Barry Manilow, Angela replied, making sure the personal alarm on Muriel McCandless's bedside table was in reach. And he's the only one who gets you to sleep. Don't tell me I'm wrong. We've experimented with Neil and Lionel, but you always end up awake all night. We're not doing that again. Barry fucking Manilow, said Muriel, flopping her arms against the mattress like a petulant child. Sounds like a cat being strangled. Absolute wanker. Angela couldn't suppress a giggle as she made her way across to the door, pausing to retrieve the tray laden with pill bottles and blister packs of various medications from the dresser beside it. And why is that horrible painting still on my wall? I told you, I don't like it. It gives me nightmares. For fuck's sake, put it in the bin. I did put it in the bin, Angela said, pausing by the threshold to straighten said picture with her free hand. 10 times. And you always tell me to put it back because it's your anchor, whatever that means. It's a fine painting anyway, one of your best. I have no idea what it is, but those slabs of overlapping color really do jump off the canvas. It's horrendous. I was stoned when I did it, like all the rest. And the idiot sheep lap them up. Pretentious twats with more money than sense, putting value on my neuroses. So true, Angela nodded, leaving the room. But at least they made you a fortune. Now, don't nod off before I come back with your cocoa. She said the same thing every night, winking at the lady of the house, whose head propped up on 2 Hungarian goose-down pillows was glaring daggers. I might have to drink it myself. Don't you dare touch my butler's chocolate, young lady, Muriel called as she pulled the door shut. It's Cadbury's we get for you, and you better fucking drink it. With the thick slab of mahogany secured in the doorframe, Muriel's shrill voice faded, and Angela's giggle turned to a chuckle as she made her way downstairs. Miserable Muriel. Moaning Muriel. Malicious Muriel. But also her Muriel, and despite her contrariness, she loved her. Nobody could put up with her for long. Not her husband, who she said passed away to escape her. Not her kids, who she said found careers in faraway countries to avoid having to visit. Which was good for Angela, who was used to dealing with foul-mouthed, cantankerous old biddies, having looked after her mother for years. It meant she got the gig of a lifetime as a live-in nurse and maid to a world-renowned, reclusive, abstract artist, free food and board, the run of a manor on private land in Wexford, surrounded by nature. What more could a 30-year-old carer of the elderly, sick of working endless shifts in soulless hospitals, and keen to fulfill her ambition of providing one-on-one personal caregiving, ask for, other than a cup of Butler's chocolate before bed? Reaching the bottom of the stairs and turning towards the kitchen, she fished her phone from her pocket to check the notification she'd felt buzz in some minutes before. WhatsApp from Freddie. "I'm here. Is the cranky old bitch asleep yet?" Shaking her head, Angela used her thumb to type. Not a bitch. Eccentric. And no, not yet. Making her chocolate. Out soon. Hope the pizza's ordered. Phone back in pocket. She made her way down a hall lined with photos, featuring everything but family, friends, and Muriel's art. Because she had no friends, hated her family, and her art terrified her. Shouldering her way through another thick door into the kitchen, the back door stood open, and it was freezing. The chill October temperatures having made themselves at home. "What the hell?" said Angela, placing the tray on the marble-topped kitchen island. "Freddie, I told you, you can't come into the main house. You'll get me fired." She couldn't see Freddie, but she knew she was there because the door had definitely been shut, and she was the only other person with access to the property. Something Muriel had reluctantly agreed to, on the proviso that her boyfriend only came over between 9 and 10 on weekends. Rules, of course, were made to be broken, and it was now 9:30 on Wednesday, with a night of pizza, beer, and Love Island catch-ups to look forward to. And were you raised in a barn? God, Freddie, close the door at least. As she hurried to shut out the cold, she caught a glimpse of movement by the fireplace and tensed herself, waiting for Frederica to wrap her arms around her and lift her off the floor, spin her around, and kiss her. She giggled in anticipation. "Just be quiet, okay? Her music's on, but I swear she has a sixth sense. She always seems to know when." Raquel. The odd-sounding words were guttural, rasping, nails on chalkboard jarring, and Angela felt her blood run cold as the door clicked into place, and she smelt something rotten. Freddie? She knew it wasn't Freddie, but she turned anyway, to stare in horror at the bulbous, slug-skinned thing lurching towards her. A dozen yellow eyes in a mantis-like head, blood dribbling from fleshy mandibles as it swung one of many barb-covered tentacles at her head, slamming her hard to the floor. "Muriel, because you like Barry Manilow. Sarcastic bitch. I do in my shite." Muriel had thrown off her duvet and swung her spindly legs off the mattress, slipped her bony feet into fluffy slippers, and wobbled to the dresser, where her phone was plugged in to charge, and from which the odious lyrics of Copacabana were oozing. "Awful," Muriel spat, snatching up the phone to swipe at its screen with a withered finger. "Fucking awful. How do I get George on this thing?" Her efforts to navigate the Spotify home screen were interrupted when her eyes went to the canvas over the dresser, causing her to shiver and moan. awful," she said again, dropping the phone as Barry sang. She lost her youth, and she lost her Tony. Now she's lost her mind. Told her to put it in the bin. Stupid bitch never listens. I've a mind to send her packing. Her and that long-haired boyfriend of hers. Dresses like a girl. Whatever happened to... She'd tugged the painting off the wall, shuffled to the door, pulled it open, and was about to fling the canvas out when she heard something stumble on the stairs, but only after being staggered by the smell of rotten fruit or vegetables, a smell that activated in her head a buried memory, like the image on the canvas which suddenly flared to life in her mind's eye. She was led by the hand from the tent in the forest to the light in the night, by a shadow, looking back for help, seeing her father in his bag by the campfire, shouting, "Daddy, we're not alone." To no response, shivering in her night dress, pine needles stabbing her bare feet, when she looked forward again, in response to the shadow telling her its name, she was entering the light and finding it filled with an indescribable array of frightening objects, machines and devices, glowing in bright colors. A chair, which she was placed into, to be pushed towards a hulking monster that reached dozens of wriggling tentacles towards her, making her scream. Arnold?" She surprised herself by muttering, as her knees gave out, and she collapsed, landing with her head outside her door, turned towards the source of the smell, towards the glistening black thing that was lurching up the stairs on lumpy legs, like a bipedal squid out of water, black as tar, drooling blood, tentacles whipping in the air. "Arnold," she said again, though she didn't know why, just that the name had entered her head when she recognized the odor, an odor she'd smelled only once in her life and forgotten, an odor she remembered now as memories of that night in June 41 exploded in her mind like Luftwaffe bombs. The night she wandered off during a camping trip with her family and got lost in the woods for 3 days. Unknown colors, unidentifiable shapes, morphing, mutating, surging around her like waves, and amongst them, yellow eyes, drooling pincers, tentacles, in her mouth, wriggling deep, filling her throat. "Are you Arnold?" Muriel asked, pushing herself up to kneeling, watching the monster approach. "Did you take me away?" The terrifying beast of many tentacles reached the top of the stairs, brought its insectile head level with hers, narrowed its sulfur yellow eyes, words that sounded like crotchet, verakel, came from its blood-smeared mandibles, and Muriel straightened in defiance, remembering the sounds, remembering the smell, remembering it. "Did you take me?" she demanded, as a long-sought understanding of why she hurt the way she hurt, and dreamt the things she dreamt, and channeled the visions she was plagued with finally materialized. "You filthy, alien pervert!" The creature drew itself up to full height, spread its pincers wide, and issued an ear-splitting shriek that sprayed droplets of blood on Muriel's face. "You stole my life!" The fiery 87-year-old spat, struggling to her feet as the monster hissed. "You filled me with hate and anger. Tusak Verakel," it said, stepping closer, swinging its tentacles back to Muriel. It was Angela, appearing on the monster's back, wrapping her arms around its neck, her face a mask of horror, bloody and torn, flap of skin dangling from one cheek, lips burst, eyes swollen, glaring. "One," she forced past mangled tongue. "Call Porice." The alien monster thing shrieked and thrashed and slammed itself into the wall, reaching up and back, coiling tentacles around Angela's head. Muriel, snapped from the fugue-like state she'd drifted into by Angela's appearance, felt delayed panic race through her and turned, tottered back into her room, swung the door shut, and reached for her phone, still connected to its charging cable on the dresser. "I've been alive forever," Barry crooned, "and I wrote the very first song." For the second time in as many minutes, the old lady's trembling hands gathered up the phone, then dropped it again as the door burst open. An airborne, headless Angela flying through, slamming into Muriel, and knocking them both to the floor. "Stupid bitch," she thought, propping herself up on her elbows, feeling a heavy weight on her legs, knowing without looking it was Angela. Fat lot of good she was. Should have got rid of her ages ago. Probably let that bastard get in while she was canoodling with... Wait, Arnold? Was that really Arnold? I remember him taking my hand while I peed. Before she could finish the thought, the window over her bed exploded, and millions of shards of razor-sharp glass filled the room, lacerating her arms, legs, and face. Arnold. When the alert came through, he was 18 parsecs away on Vestron 7, helping to quell an uprising organized by the anarchic Micropian Party in advance of upcoming elections. And he cursed himself for falling for the ploy, although he'd been transferred to the president's personal security division. The rebel leader, Pleekvar, knew he wouldn't be able to resist returning to his homeworld to help the ground troops subdue the dissidents. He had knowledge of the land that would prove invaluable to their efforts, so it wasn't a stretch to predict what he would do when he heard of the unrest. Anti-libertarian, Micropian scum tarnishing his beautiful Vestropolis? Unthinkable. Arnold Edibold couldn't stand by while such a violation occurred, and he hadn't. But by abandoning his post to rejoin his regiment, He'd left his asset unguarded and given Pleekvar an opportunity to damage Turanian unity. He would be banished to the frozen wastes for such an indiscretion. So as soon as he received news of the security breach from the capital, he knew what machinations were afoot and commandeered a starhopper to take him from Vestron to Earth. A trip through the inner cosmos that normally took several hours, but he accomplished in one as he raced to avert disaster, a feat he was sure he had failed when he teleported down to the grounds of the manor and discovered the remains of a human female scattered across the lawn. "I'm too late," was his first thought. "We will lose the elections. The anarchists will seize power. The Turanian nation will fall, and I will live out my days on an ice-cold rock near Cetron, where his second, third, fourth, and fifth." Then he heard sounds of commotion from a room on the second floor and realized he still had a chance. He raced to the wall, used his tentacles to climb it, eyes narrowing into slits as he prepared for battle, reaching the window and smashing through into the sleeping quarters of the one he'd sworn to protect. Muriel McCandless, now much older than she'd been when he left his post 2 days before. 14 years older, to be precise. She was on the floor, under a corpse, covering her head with twig-like arms as glass rained down around her. Untold landed on a pink platform under the window as the assassin pounced into the room, placed a foot on the small of Muriel's back, snaked its tentacles down towards her head. It glared at him while it coiled its limbs around her neck. "Cratchet, Verakel," it snarled, and Untold looked on in defeat, knowing he couldn't do anything before the rebel ripped the head off the human. They'd hacked the capital's data files. They'd found who they were looking for. They'd determined her location and knew they had time to take her out. They'd put a plan in motion, and it had worked. They were seconds away from causing an election upset. Unless the president would not be happy. But there was only one thing he could do. "Daddy, we're not alone," he said, in perfect English, mimicking the voice of the 5-year-old girl in the woods. The only thing she'd said beyond screaming when he took her from her family 2 weeks before. The words they'd recorded and used, buried in her subconscious as a trigger to put her mind in a coma when needed. Beneath the rebel's foot, Muriel's body contorted, spine snapping, head twisting, neck breaking, eyes staring up at Untold. Fuck you, Untold," she said. "You evil bastard." Her final word trailed off as her head exploded, and from the hole in her neck came Vera Kell, howling as she grew from shrunken embryo to full-size adult in a matter of moments. The rebel fell back, tentacles around the emerging president, becoming entangled with hers as they grew from her torso. It was trapped, and it hissed, and it roared, watching Vera Kell's head fully form, her eyes blink open and stare. It took her a second to get her bearings, but once she had, she didn't wait, opening a second vertical mouth in her throat and spraying a jet of corrosive acid from her guts, an act only females of the Turanian race could perform, an act Untold could not watch. He stared at his feet while the anarchist screamed at the unstable pink slab he was standing on, and the earth bird illustrated puffy material, balled up at its end. Pretty, he thought. Looks soft. Inviting. Why don't we have such niceties on Untold, the president said, snapping him to attention and bringing his gaze back up, avoiding the steaming mass of goo by the door. Yes, ma'am. What transpired today? Why the intrusion? Anarchists, ma'am. Pleekvar hacked the capital's databanks, found out you were vacationing on Earth in a human host with me watching over. Saw it as a chance to take you out of the running for re-election. Initiated an uprising on Vestron through 7 to lure me away. Sadly, I fell for it. Thought they could use a local to help. Then he sent someone to eliminate you. I see. But you found out? Capital agents got wind of it and alerted me. I returned at once, but too late to do anything other than wake you. I apologize, ma'am. Vera Kell grunted, looking around the room. Fuck, she said, in her characteristic, crude way. Ma'am, couldn't even get 2 shitting weeks to myself before starting on the campaign trail. This was a good life, too. Fun, but interrupted right before the end. What bullshit. Human passings are the best fucking bits. Sorry, ma'am. Don't apologize. I'm alive, aren't I? Thanks to you. Did you say that asshole Pleekvar orchestrated a rebellion on your homeworld? Yes, ma'am. Is it quelled? No, ma'am. I had to leave before... Then what are we fucking waiting for? You have a hopper, I presume? Let's get back to it. I'm in the mood for melting more anarchists. And then I'm going to kick the living shit out of Pleekvar. And so, exiting a crime scene the likes of which had never before been witnessed, Vera Kell and Untold left Manilow behind, singing, We'll just go on burning bright somewhere in the night. Speed. Fate. Hi, Buck. Thanks for taking part in the recent Speed Fate speed dating event and submitting your feedback. We hope you enjoyed the evening. Please find below a copy of the comments you left for each of your dates. You will receive feedback submitted about you in a separate mail. Should any of those you said yes to also say yes to you, we will forward each of you a copy of your contact information so you can get in touch. The very best of luck, and thanks for choosing Speed Fate. The Speed Fate team. Buck Tucker, dated the following people: 18th July 2023, and left the following feedback. Mandy Rogers, age 37, self-help guru. You said, fun person. Quick smile, bubbly. The conversation flowed from the get-go. Love the curls. She had so much to say, and was passionate about her interests, even if they were a bit airy-fairy. If there's one thing I respect, it's passion about your subject of choice. Refreshing to meet someone as firm a believer in destiny as Mandy is. Could talk to her for hours about sliding doors and parallel universes. Would love to delve deeper into her thoughts on escapable fate. Great date. Would you like to meet Mandy again? Yes. Evelyn Pierce, age 35. School teacher. You said, Evelyn is a dark horse. Shy to start, but relaxed as the date went on. I was nervous too, because she's very smart. I felt dumb by comparison. Very impressed by her career. She seems to be a great teacher. Very professional. I get the impression she could be successful at anything she turns her hand to, even partnering with me. She has the voice of authority. It just needs to be strengthened. She could broaden my horizons on intellectual topics, and I could teach her about life outside the classroom. Definitely see potential here. Would you like to meet Evelyn again? Yes. Katerina Cruz, age 38, physical therapist. You said. Not much to say about Katerina, except wow. I didn't know drop dead gorgeous was an actual thing, but as soon as I left her table, I felt part of me die, or at least abandon ship so it could stay behind. Her eyes really drew me in, could get lost in them for hours, not to mention everything else. Her English isn't great, but that didn't matter. Her body language did the talking. Can tell she doesn't take shit from anyone. And with those muscles, you wouldn't want to forget her birthday. Bit intimidating, but that's a turn on. So it's a yes from me. Would you like to meet Katerina again? Yes. Ashley Davenport, age 41, office admin. You said, Ashley is a bit mousy. Not my type physically, but has an air of mystery about her, which is attractive. Not sure why she was at the event. She was an ice queen, and I had to work hard to make conversation. Wasn't very successful. Didn't find out much about her, other than that she has cats and works in admin. I'm not a cat person, but I have a dog who hates cats, so he would probably chase them off if we got together. Pretty sure she just had her walls up. I have a feeling I could get her to loosen up. I am 100% sure it would be worth it. It would be nice to see her show some emotion. Challenge accepted. Would you like to meet Ashley again? Yes. To Buck Tucker from Speed Fate Team. Date 19th July 2023, 16:31. Subject: Your speed. Fate. Feedback: Hi Buck. Thanks again for attending the recent Speed Fate speed dating event. We have now compiled the feedback we received from the people you met and have included it below. You will receive the contact information for anyone who said yes, that you said yes to also in a separate mail. The best of luck, and thanks for choosing Speed Fate. The Speed Fate team, Mandy Rogers, age 37, yoga teacher. They said, Buck was a pleasure to talk with. Very open-minded, and I didn't get the impression he was humoring me when I was rattling on about chakras and meditation. He seemed to be genuinely fascinated. Was interesting hearing his views on the afterlife and reincarnation. He carries a lot of nomadic energy and seems to be as much of a free spirit as I am, even if yoga and mindfulness aren't his thing. Would definitely like to bounce more ideas off him. I promised him a tarot reading if we meet again. So here's hoping. Would they like to meet you again? They said, yes. Evelyn Pierce, age 35, school teacher. They said, Buck is great. He's a lot more adventurous than me. Very extrovert, which is exciting. I need someone like that to get me out of my comfort zone. Raising 2 teenagers as a full-time single dad is not an easy task, so I take my hat off to him. Also impressed by his role as a part-time scout leader, setting time aside to take kids camping and teach them about the great outdoors. That's inspirational. Would definitely be interested in getting to know him better. Always a sucker for a good dad. Would they like to meet you again? They said, yes. Katerina Cruz, age 38, physical therapist. They said, Buck is interesting, man. Similar interest in keep fit, training for marathon. Now, I think he has a lot of work to do, but is good. He has goal to work for. Perhaps he needs some help training. Little out of shape. But I don't have heart to say. Cute smile, kind eyes, love-bearded man. Also interested in his musical career. Must be nice to date with guitarist of upcoming rock band. I think I should like to see this. Would they like to meet you again? They said, yes. Ashley Davenport, age 41, office admin. They said, God loves a trier. I gave him nothing, but he kept on trucking. Bonus points for that. If I was him, I would have given up in the first minute, like everyone else. 5 must have been torture. Really hate this shit. Only did it 'cause my friends signed me up, and I never would have heard the end of it. Whatever. Promise I'll make more of an effort next time. Not that he's going to want to meet me again. He'd probably sooner throw himself under a bus. Would they like to meet you again? They said, yes, 2. Buck Tucker from Fate. Team. Date 20th July 2023, 11:30. Subject, your speed. Fate. Contacts. Hi Buck. Please find attached contact information for your matches from the speed date event you attended on July 16th, 2023. We hope you had an enjoyable experience and have our fingers crossed. One of your matches will be the one. We've had a number of success stories to date, some leading to marriage, and are always interested in hearing how things go. The best of luck, and thanks for choosing Speed Fate, the Speed Fate team, dressed in his least shabby suit, well-worn blue check shirt, newly bought navy tie, and doused in the least repulsive knockoff Hugo Boss aftershave he could find. Tucker drew a well-practiced smile onto his goatee-framed jaw and slid into the seat opposite his date, the redhead in the white dress, whose hair was tied back in a hastily knotted ponytail and whose name was displayed on the sticker attached to her chest. "Evelyn," he announced, clasping his hands together and placing his elbows on the table. "So good to see you. I was delighted to hear you wanted to meet me again. I felt we had a good connection, even though we only talked for 5 minutes. How have you been? How are those school kids? Hope they've been listening to teacher across the white-clothed tabletop, past the bottle of champagne chilling in a stainless steel cooler, 2 sparkling champagne flutes, and the candle protruding from a chrome holder." Evelyn met Tucker's gaze and swallowed the lump of saliva that had stuck in her throat. He hadn't thought it possible for her to be more nervous than she'd been at the speed date, especially since they knew each other now. But there she was, eyes darting about, glancing at the people either side of them, beads of sweat visible on her brow. It was going to be harder than he thought to get her to loosen up, he realized. But that didn't matter. In a way, he found her nervousness endearing. "They're fine," she said, her voice coming out a whisper, forcing her to clear her throat. "They're good. They don't give me trouble. I never have to reprimand anyone." "Really? There's not a single troublemaker in the bunch? What age did you say they were?" Tucker reached forward abruptly, suit sleeve riding up his arm, and closed his hand around the neck of the champagne bottle, causing Evelyn to jump, eyes darting to his unclean fingers. 14, she said, returning her eyes to his as he took the bottle from the cooler and started undoing the wire holding its cork in place. "And 15. No, honestly, nothing like that. I've never had to punish anyone, if that's what you mean." "I see," Tucker said, narrowing his eyes as if to peer into her mind. "Bit boring, isn't it? All that authority, and there's not a single obnoxious teenager for you to use it on? I find that hard to believe. As a former teenager in a school full of stuck-up bitches and bullying brats, I find that extremely hard to believe. But hey, if that's what you're saying, pop!" The cork shot from the bottle with explosive energy, making the nervous teacher jump again. "I'll take your word for it. How about your colleagues? They all super nice, too?" Come on, you can be honest. Bet there's a couple of real shits, right? Get off on tormenting the kids? Probably a few pervs too. Pedo bastards? I know there were at my school. Oh, I know. Can think of at least 3 motherfuckers who deserved to have their dicks cut off, sitting forward, extending his arm, pouring bubbly liquid into his date's glass. He glared as she shook her head softly, almost imperceptibly, and sucked in her lips. He snorted, smiled, a shake of the head as he finished pouring, and moved the bottle to his own glass. You don't have to be so nervous, Evelyn. It's just me and you. You can tell me anything. I'm very open-minded, a man of the world. I know the way things work. I'm familiar with what goes on behind closed doors. In response to his comment about it being just him and her eyes had flicked to the left and right again, almost as if to remind herself there were people around them, though it shouldn't have been necessary, considering how boisterous they were. Don't worry about them, Tucker said, depositing the champagne bottle back into the cooler with a clatter and crunch. What we talk about is none of their business, and vice versa. Let's just focus on getting to know each other. He lifted his glass, took a sip, let the bubbles pop in his mouth and tickle his throat. Effervescent. Evelyn watched him return the glass to the table with dampening eyes and quivering lip, bubbles spinning in the amber liquid in the untouched glass before her. So you're not a mean teacher, and you have no asshole students, and everyone you work with is lovely. Okay, I get it. They've conditioned you well. Turning a blind eye is second nature. That's okay. That can be fixed. You just have to open your eyes, see things for what they are. Identify the evil in people. Acknowledge it. Accept that it's there to be destroyed. And do you know the best way to do that? He crossed his arms, lifted an eyebrow, cocked his head. And no, she said, the first tear escaping an eye and running down a scratched, grime-covered cheek. I don't. Buck, you know, I think you got the wrong impression of me. I'm not a bad person. I treat people well. I don't. I'm not. The best way to do that. He cut her off, craning his head closer to hers, his nose almost touching the trembling candle flame, is to find it in yourself and expose it. Draw it out into the light, like a putrid, rotting vampire. Set it free and watch the havoc it wreaks. Once you know what your own darkness is capable of, you'll be able to recognize it in others. And then you'll be able to do something about it. Like me. It's simple, really. So come on, let's go on a journey of self-discovery. Aren't you drinking? Please, Buck. I don't think I'm what you're looking for. I think we should... Have you ever cheated on someone, Evelyn? Deliberately or accidentally, thinking it was okay because, you know, it wasn't that serious and they weren't invested. No, I never Have you ever lied to someone to let them down gently, or just because you wanted some attention, to be wined and dined, treated like a princess to pass the time? Buck, I want to stop, please. Have you ever hit anyone? A sibling? A child? Have you ever lost your cool and lashed out blindly with a hand or a foot? Hurt someone out of anger or desire? Please, so you don't use your authority to punish students. How about something else? Have you seduced one? All those virile young teenagers staring you up and down. Have you ever taken advantage of it? Tasted forbidden fruit? Or maybe not them. Maybe one of their parents. Maybe a bit of home-wrecking sates an urge. I don't know why you're doing this. I don't know what kind of person you think I am, but I'm not. Have you ever thought about killing someone, Evelyn? Pulling a cord tight around their neck and watching them choke, sticking a knife in their guts and twisting it, enjoying the warmth of the warm, sticky blood that... Jesus, God, somebody help me, please, somebody help me. She screamed, she stomped, she shook, she howled and yelled and roared. Teardrops flew from her eyes, but nobody helped. Oh, Evelyn, said Tucker, after allowing her a moment. I had a good feeling about you. I thought if I could get you to see the light and come around to my way of thinking, we'd have fun expelling assholes from the world. But it's not going to happen, is it? She continued to scream, wrenching and twisting in the chair she was tied to. So he shrugged and took hold of the candle, slid it from its holder, revealed the blade that protruded from its base. The teacher's eyes went wide, and her voice cracked as he angled it towards her throat, leaned further forward, and swiped left. A second mouth fell open in the smooth, pale skin of her throat, and she gasped, gurgled, thrashing more urgently as a spine-chilling groan crept from her soul. Tucker sat back and watched. No glee showed on his face. No excitement. He watched blankly. The knife held loose, the thin layer of blood on its blade, sprinkling scarlet splashes on the tablecloth. If there was an air about him at all, as his second hope for a partner fizzled out, it was one of disappointment. He really would have liked her as a soulmate. After a minute, when Evelyn stopped twitching, he checked to ensure his shirt and jacket hadn't been soiled, then slid the candle knife back into its holder, licked his forefinger, extinguished the candle's flame, pushed his chair back, and got up. He took a napkin from the table, dabbed at his mouth as he stepped back, watching his scuffed loafers, careful not to step into the blood that had pooled beneath the chair behind him, the blood that had oozed from boring, not mysterious Ashley. To his left, bound and gagged, Katerina lunged her upper body towards him, impressive arm muscles bulging through the gossamer thin material of the dress he'd clad her in, brown eyes glowering with hate, teeth gnashing behind the black rubber strap that subdued her mouth. The chair was bolted to the floor. Her feet were chained to the chair. Her movement was restricted. He wasn't ready for her yet. A fist to the face. She slumped, head lolling loosely over her chest, to the right of the teacher. In the center of a long, abandoned warehouse, another dressed table, another pair of chairs, and terrified captive. A puddle of urine, not blood. On the floor around her feet, Tucker fished a lighter from his pocket. As he stepped around the corpse of bleeding Evelyn, lit the wick of the candle dagger protruding from chrome scabbard. Lighter, back in pocket, he took hold of the rubber gag around the girl's head, pulled it off, relishing the snap as it came loose. "Please," she said, all wild, rabbit eyes and mascara-smeared face. "Don't hurt me. I'll do anything. I promise. Anything." He drew a well-practiced smile onto his goatee-framed jaw and slid into the seat opposite his date, the blonde in the ivory-white dress, whose curls hung loose around her face, and whose name was displayed on a sticker. "Mandy," he announced, spreading his hands to greet her and bowing theatrically. "So good to see you. I was delighted to hear you wanted to meet me again. I believe you had some thoughts on escapable fate?"